Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it if this is the first time you're joining us here on this channel. Thank you for clicking on my face. My name is Jacy and I like to do story times on this channel. And today's story time will be kind of a really interesting sad story. So normally I do kind of fun, kooky, silly story times. So make sure to check that out so you get the vibe of my channel. Today's video is going to be really kind of sad because it's going to be about how my mom found a dead body. So I guess more morbid than anything, but honestly, the lighting was really cool right now. So I was like, hey, let me turn on my camera and film this super quick story time. So if you like story times, if you like hanging out with me and sharing your own experiences on all of these topics in the comments below, then make sure to like this video. It really helps me out, and subscribe so you can join us for future story times and so you guys can share your own experiences in the comments. That's one of my favorite parts about doing all these story times, is kind of starting discussions and sharing our own experiences within this specific topic. So with that being said, let's get started on this pretty sad story. So this story takes place several years ago where my mom was working at her grocery store. She has been working at the same grocery store for decades and decades. I don't mean to date you, Mom, but a very long time. And this day was kind of an interesting, and this day started off like any other day. You know, she was working part-time on the night shift, just checking groceries, making small talk. And for the record, my mom is kind of like a celebrity in our hometown because she works at this store. She knows everybody because everybody has to go grocery shopping. And it's kind of one of our jokes within our family that we can't go anywhere in our hometown, whether Target, whether to the movies, without her recognizing somebody. And just because my mom is a super outgoing, very memorable person, and she knows everybody who comes in and out of her doors. So this particular night, a customer was kind of like chit-chatting with her at her register, you know, catching her up on things. And they go to the restroom and they come back and they're like, somebody's in the restroom. Like, let me just hang out here while we keep like chit-chatting and catching up, because it's kind of like a lot of downtime when you're checking groceries and bagging them up. So they were just kind of hanging out talking. And they noticed that nobody was coming out of the bathroom for like a really long time. And so he's like, oh, did he come out and I missed him? Let me go check. Goes back to the bathroom, checks, and the door is still locked. And he's like, what the heck? Like, the door's still locked. Somebody's still in the bathroom. Like, what's going on? After about like a half hour, he was like, nobody, they're not coming out. Like, I'm gonna head out. You know, I don't need to wait in this grocery store just to use the bathroom. So I'm gonna head out. So they started keeping an eye on it and they're like, hey, like somebody's in the bathroom, but nobody's coming out. Like, did somebody accidentally lock it perhaps? Or is somebody in there passed out? Or is somebody just like, you know, having some digestive issues and was not coming out of the restroom? And so then another customer comes up and is catching up with my mom, was like, hey, Julie, how you doing? By the way, there was like some blood spots like in some of the aisles. I don't know if you want to tell one of the box boys to go sweep that up or something, but there were just like some blood droplets everywhere. Not great. And so that's when my mom's kind of like, blood droplets? That's not great. Let me tell one of the box boys to go clean it up. So they go sweep it up and they're like, yeah, it was in like several aisles, just like single drops of blood. And there's somebody in the bathroom who hasn't come out. Let's go check in on that. So they go to the bathroom and they're knocking on the door and just being like, hey, like, is anyone in there? Hello, what's going on? So they go and they grab the key and they try to open the door, but the door isn't opening. It was as if something was wedging the door from the other side. And so they're kind of like, what the heck is going on? Like, somebody is in there and there's blood. What the heck happened? So my mom kind of goes to check it out, goes with the other box boy, where they at this point didn't really know what's going on. You know, if there are little droplets of blood, you know, I get little droplets of blood from like getting a paper cut sort of thing. So that could have been unrelated. And they didn't want to get ahead of themselves and like call the police and being like, somebody's not coming out of the bathroom sort of thing. So they were just like, hey, let's just try to get in there. You know, clearly somebody is maybe unresponsive, or maybe they have bags in front of the door, but they're not answering us. So we need to figure out what's going on. So they're standing outside of the bathroom and this box boy, who is kind of a younger gentleman, he starts really putting his shoulder into it. Just 1, 2, 3. They heave open the door and it is a blood bath in that bathroom. So right away, they kind of like scream and jolt and gasp, and immediately everybody's calling 911. So they kind of have to go into professional employee mode where they're like, all right, bathrooms are closed, nobody come over here. Because of course, when you like scream and gasp and you see blood everywhere, people are gonna be like, what's going on? I wanna see. But they're like, everybody like stand back, call the police, like we have a situation here. So both my mom and myself, we have very strong stomachs. We are very like fascinated by medical and true crime sort of things. I have always said that if I had more of a scientific brain, I absolutely would have been a pathologist in another life. Damn my stupid, stupid brain. But my mom's kind of very similar, where she saw all this blood and it wasn't like a gasp, run away in terror sort of thing. She was more very inquisitive of like, is there a murderer in our grocery store right now? Like, we just found blood everywhere around the store. And she said that there was blood all in this restroom. She said the toilet was covered in blood. There was blood all over the walls. And once they were able to push the door open, there was a man clearly lifeless who was on the ground with his head in the toilet. So right away they're thinking like, did somebody slash this guy's throat and run away? Was this guy like somehow hurt, walk around the grocery store and come back? Why is there blood everywhere? But if that was the case, if it was like some type of murderer, how would the door be locked from the inside? So my mom's kind of, her wheels are turning sort of thing. And this is the sad part. I just got chills. But my mom recognized this man. Again, she knows everybody who comes in and out of her store. And for the sake of anonymity, she goes, oh my gosh, that's Paul. Like, I know him. He's the guy who always comes in here with his own reusable bags, where every time she would have to open up his reusable bags, she said it always smelled like cigarette smoke, how he needed to clean those bags or something, but it was always like, oh man, I got to bag his groceries and a whiff of Marlboro is going to come right up my nose. And she was like, oh my gosh, who would hurt Paul? Like, how is Paul dead in the bathroom? How am I finding this customer who I've known for many, many years unalive in this restroom? So the police arrive, you know, they kind of like shut down the area. And what they learn is that there was not a murderer on the loose. There was not any type of crime that happened. What had happened was Paul was an older gentleman who clearly did not have the best bill of health. What they learned was all of the blood in the bathroom was he was coughing up blood and dying in their bathroom from whatever illness, whatever disease he had. So while he was walking around the grocery store, he started to cough up blood, and there was like droplets of blood because maybe he was coughing in his hands and it was falling off. And so then he made his way to the bathroom being like, oh my God, I'm coughing up blood. Like, this is crazy. Had some sort of coughing fit where maybe his heart was failing him, but he just started coughing all over the walls, started almost vomiting blood into the toilet, and just died. Just died in this grocery store bathroom, not surrounded by friends and family, but probably panicking, being like, why am I bleeding? Why am I coughing up blood? But it all happening so fast that he died with his head in the toilet at a grocery store, which is so sad. So obviously a very devastating and tragic story, but what I found interesting and why this story kind of came to mind is I was recently telling somebody this story of how my mom was the one to find a dead body and like call the police in her own grocery store. And the person that I was talking to was like, that's wild because my sister actually witnessed somebody dying at a grocery store. So the story with that was several years ago, you know, her sister was working at a grocery store and she was a box boy, which I don't know if that's actually the technical term. That's just how my mom has always used the word, but they're like the baggers. They're the people that go retrieve the carts that kind of like go and do sweeps around the store. So she was a box boy at this grocery store, and they would have this older gentleman who came in regularly, who's probably in like his 70s. And he was very old to the point where anytime they came in, they knew that he would always ask for a walkout, which is where the employee goes and helps them put the groceries in their car. So, you know, they say their hellos, their pleasantries, being like, hey, Jim, like, how you doing today? And he has a cart full of groceries, so they get the groceries all bagged up and start to take them to his car. As they're going to his car, you know, the box boy has the cart and she's wheeling the cart out and he's kind of walking slowly behind her when somebody peels out of the grocery store parking lot and hits this man. Now, it was really interesting the way she described it because she said it was a parking lot. It's not like somebody was speeding and hit him, but because he was such an old man, the way that he fell, hit his head, and almost instantaneously died. What is even more upsetting about this is they said the person drove away. And so here was her sister witnessing this crime, but it all happening so fast because again, it was happening behind her. She hears kind of screeching. She hears people maybe gasping, that by the time she's able to look at the car and look back down at him and see him that he's hurt, goes and runs to him to make sure he's okay and is not able to, you know, identify a license plate or get the make and model of the car before even understanding what's happening. So she runs over to the man and he had a head wound and was bleeding, just bleeding on the concrete. And right away, she's like yelling at kind of the passersby, being like, call the police. Like, they just hit this man and took off. So she was saying that there were witnesses who were able to get the make and model of the car. And luckily that there were security cameras at this grocery store, that they were able to get a decent identification of this car, but they were not able to identify the driver until months later, until after it made its news circuit, being like, this man was hit in a grocery store parking lot. This 70-year-old man was hit in this parking lot, and the car just drove away. And so it wasn't until after like a good news cycle run where people were able to identify the make and model and kind of help identify the fuzzy figures in the security footage that they were able to be apprehended and get charged for this crime. But it's even more devastating because here this family is learning that their father, their grandfather, their uncle, their best friend was just hit by a car in a grocery store, but then also learning that the person who hit him tried to get away with it, tried to make a run for it, therefore robbing them of the closure needed by any kind of justice. It's absolutely insane to me because, yeah, they would have gotten in trouble for it, but it was an accident. But trying to get away with it and not allowing the family to properly grieve because they were still worried about this other person out there who's just like getting away with it is just even more devastating. So as I was talking to this friend who was telling me this really sad story, I asked, how's your sister doing after all of this? And she said it has truly affected her sister long-term mentally, how she kind of has PTSD from it because she says she somewhat felt responsible because she wasn't walking next to the man, that, you know, had she been a little bit closer to him, that, you know, maybe the cart could have gotten in the way. And it's one of those things of like, there's no way she should blame herself. It's not at all her fault. But then it was also just the mental trauma of seeing a dead body. Like, it's not something I would ever wish on anybody, but not being able to resuscitate them to really help them out or try to catch the person who did this. She says that she has been in therapy and it's been kind of like one of those defining things for her entire life, which is interesting because it's not that way for my mom. With my mom, it was more of like a, wow, that was so crazy how that happened. And she was able to move on a lot better than this younger girl who was working at a grocery store. And I think it's truly a familial thing because I think I might do a separate video on it. I'll see how well this video does and what you guys think. But my brother has also witnessed somebody dying in his own arms. And when that happened, it did not affect him mentally. It actually made him want to pursue nursing so that he could instead provide assistance and medical care for those people. So I definitely think it's one of those things that my family has more of an interest and more of a stronger stomach when it comes to sort of those situations. But I can only imagine for anybody coming across any type of accident, for any type of crime to occur, how that would be so mentally taxing to see a body in that state and to face the circumstances of thinking about it all of the time and all of the different ways that perhaps you could have done things differently and things would have turned out differently. But I think in both of these situations, there was just nothing that either person can do, any party could have done. It was either an accident or it was natural causes, but it is just kind of an interesting conversation to have of what are the long-term effects of seeing somebody in such a graphic and disturbing position once they die. So I just kind of wanted to bring that story time to you guys. Again, definitely not like a funny or silly kind of video, but I do think it's interesting how my mom discovered a dead body and we all just kind of forget about it. We're like, oh my gosh, wait, that's actually insane, Mom. So if you guys have any similar stories or if you have anything that you want to share or you're comfortable with sharing with us in the comments, definitely let me know below. I'd love to start this conversation and this discussion in terms of how it might be mentally taxing being in a situation like this. I don't even know. But that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts if you want to hear my brother's story. I also haven't asked his permission to tell that story fully, so I want to make sure I get his permission. But I thank you guys so much for watching this really quick video. Just wanted to get that out there, so let me know if you enjoyed it. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful and safe June, and I will see you guys in the next video. Toodles!